stuff, huh? Too much. Recording is starting. All right. Feel free though to interrupt me if something comes up and you think, oh yeah, I still wanted to ask about whatever. Okay. Because that's fine. Today is the 7th. It's the 8th class, but the 7th day. That's why I was calling it Lucky 7. But it's also day 8, which is our halfway point. Because 8 is the middle number between 1 and 15. We have 15 classes. We're going to just continue with examples from 3-2, just a few more examples of equation solving. So I'm going to try to show some that look complicated, some that have fractions, and some that have decimals. Maybe like 3 of each. And then one story problem that is always, it always confuses people. So I'm going to show that one in case I haven't even looked at the midterm since I wrote it last spring. So, I mean, last winter really. So I'll look at that too and make sure if there's anything on there that I haven't gone over in class, I'll take it off. So it's not posted yet as tomorrow, but anyway. But today you're going to have that 50 problem assignment, and some of the problems might be things we haven't exactly gone over, so that's why I'll be available all the way till 4 if you want to just, sometimes people like in real life, in face-to-face classes and in online classes, I always have a few students who like to just be together, like either in the physical room at the college center working on their assignment while I'm working on my stuff. And then if anything comes up, they could be like, Jenny, what about this? And I can check, And I have a couple students I do that with on Zoom also since the pandemic. We'll just meet, we just sit there and I might be cooking dinner and they're working on their assignment. We're in the Zoom. And if they have a question, they just stop me and I'll check it out. So first with parentheses. Let's do, well, why not dive right into the tough ones? No. Let's dive into one that's not so tough and then a tough one. Excuse me. This one isn't complicated of parentheses, but that -2 is confusing sometimes to people. And so this is like a unit. Actually, I'm going to keep that minus around it. So when we distribute, we can't subtract yet. We distribute that -2 through, then combine like terms. Remember I said last time, you can do more than one step at once. I've watched people do problems, equations, where they do 2 or 3 steps at once. Add 10 to both sides. And x equals 20. If you're ever not convinced, you can go ahead and do the check. So 3 times 20 minus 2 times 25. We want to see if that's going to equal 10. 60 minus 50 equals 10. Just remember that's a good example right there too of that order of operations right there. We don't take 60 minus 2 and then multiply because we're not allowed to subtract or multiplying. So that's why that goes together as a 50. Anyone have a question about that one? So that's a parentheses situation. We did a couple with distributing yesterday, but we didn't do one quite as hairy as this one. I'm just pulling these from the chapter review problems in the textbook. Nested parentheses, this is called, or nested symbols of grouping. So they're nested If you have a calculator, it doesn't do, I mean, it can do square ones, but it's usually like all curved ones. But that's, look how that kind of might make you a little dizzy if you're prone to dizziness. And so that's why that sometimes they'll put a square bracket or a curly bracket like that, just to have some variety. So it's easy to see what's going on. So this is nested symbols of grouping or parentheses. And we have to just take a deep breath. And you might love these, so this might not be even an issue for you. Somebody just asked me a question. I'm going to answer it in a second. What was I about to say? Grouping. But if it does make you feel a little bit anxious to look at a problem like this, remember what they say, feel the fear and do it anyway. So just take a breath, take it slow. Remember that you have all the tools to solve these, and you just follow the steps. So the steps are work inside your bracket and clean that up first. So I'm going to distribute the 2 to 3x, and the rest can just drop down there. Or honestly, if I'm doing this myself, I'm to focus on one part and then go back and fill it into the rest. But that isn't like the best role modeling of how to solve an equation. So I'm going to do it the proper way here. And then we combine like terms. 8 minus 5 is 3. And if you ever want to practice more of these, I did have an additional practice worksheet on the Moodle for yesterday. That's a lot more problems, like 100. It's really optional. If you got the point, you know what you're doing, I wouldn't worry about it. But if you want to practice more of these, that's what you would Google, just solving equations with nested symbols of grouping. Now that minus, we treat that like a -1 that distributes through. We don't get a bit though, Jenny, there. There we go. So we'll treat that like -1 times 6x, -1 times 3. And then combine like terms. And then I'll just go to the next page with that one. But before I do, does anyone have a question so far? So we've got, continuing on with that one, -6x plus 4. Even then, look at this, even though now it's cleaned up to just a 2-step, it's still not that easy. We add 6x to both sides is what I would do. +4 equals 7x minus 3. Add 3 to both sides to try and get x alone. And divide both sides by 7. So x equals 1. And add now I can answer the question that's in here. Someone asked, when we show our work, do you want us to show that we checked it also? Oh, Carrie asked that. She put it to everyone so I could say her name. Yes. When you show your work for the midterm, you're just going to scan your scratch paper. And so, no, you don't have to show the check there. Like if I ever ask you to, like on a quiz or something, do the problem and show the check, then I'll want to see it. But on the midterm, no, it's just you do the problems and just write down all the work that you actually did for it. And then that's what you'll scan and upload when you're done with your test. So I'm not going to be picky about showing the check, but I do want you to try to once in a while, even just for yourself, because it's good, a good tool. You ever take some kind of standardized test, like, I don't know, ASVAB or grad school test or something where you have to do equations and you don't know what the answer is for sure, that you don't see the answer key. You could always do your own check. So that would be a good idea if you have the time, Sometimes it's a timed test, we might be in a rush, right? Okay, let's do one more of these just because they're a little bit daunting looking. And I want to eliminate the daunt. It's not even a thing, I know, but the more we do something, like speaking in front of a group, my voice, when I'm teaching, I'm fine. But if I have to give a talk or a presentation to a group, or like I had to give a report to the board of trustees for the college once when I was a department chair, and oh my God, it was so embarrassing. My voice just shook the whole time like I was about to cry. And I wasn't even scared and I wasn't going to cry, but my voice just, so that's daunting to me. But the more we do it, even if it's still going to be kind of make us uncomfortable, the more we do it, the more we just get used to it. That whole, what I was saying before, feel the fear, do it anyway. Another thing, sometimes people really have an aversion to that square bracket. So as soon as I eliminated the one on the inside, I distributed that and that one. As soon as I do that, well, I could change this to a regular parentheses if I want to. No problem. So you're welcome to, your parentheses could look however you want. You could make up a parentheses. Nobody's going to care. Well, I would care. I would see it and think that was pretty cool. But sometimes people have like a little signature at the end of each problem that they do. I had a student once that always made a little flower, hearts, whatever. It's all good. One guy, he was really gangster. I forget what he had, like a really jagged, like a lightning strike, like that. It was always the same, consistent. I'm stopping for a second so you can have a chance to finish this one. It's going to be a whole number, this answer. The midterm I'll open at class time tomorrow. We'll log into class. We'll see if anyone has any questions or some last minute problems they want me to explain. And then everybody will stay logged in their breakout room with their camera on if possible. And they'll log into the WebAssign and do the midterm. That's how we have to proctor those. That's our pandemic protocol. So good question. Keep asking questions if anyone has them, because today's the day to clear up any confusions or curiosities. So go ahead and finish this one. Just remember those different skills and steps. You always have them. You're always going to have these skills now the rest of your life. They might go in the back burner of your mind if you end up doing Alaska's Deadliest Catch for a while, or who knows what, so it might go on the back burner, but they're always there. Even if you get a brain injury, they're still there. Like I've worked with brain injury people, and there's still, as soon as you learn ways to make the connections, clear that pathway in your mind, it comes back. So you've got it. No one can take it away from you. Yes. Any questions about that one? All right, the fraction ones. We've done a few with fractions, but watch how these look. Almost no one likes these, so we'll rise to the challenge. I don't assign a lot of these hard ones like I'm talking about today on the midterm. None of us put the really hard ones on the midterm, usually maybe one of them. And you might not even think this is so hard. I'm going to put up 2 at once in case you're comfortable with this. You can go ahead and send me these. If anybody didn't do their quiz yesterday, you still can. You can still do it and send it to me. Try to do it before too much time goes by while it's fresh in your head, and so you don't end up with too much work to do, like on the weekend or something, you know. There's one more that I'm going to show on the next page, well, maybe 2 more. I'll come back to this page. 3 and 4. This one's really good. Y minus 2 over 6 equals y plus 1 over 15. And then the last one, 5x plus 1 over 4.5 equals 18.125. Hold on, I'm just going to have it be equal 18, so it's not as weird there. Okay, so these are the kind of fractiony ones that we might have. I'm just going to look and make sure I'm not cutting you short on any of them. So go ahead and think about these first 2 for a couple minutes, and then I'm just going to go through them. Oh, here we go. One more. 5. I knew there was one more kind. These ones that look sort of like this. 3x plus 1/4 equals 1/2. And one with a distribute. 1/2. This is probably the hardest one for people most years. And I'll put one more. I know you're probably all like, what? She said just 1 or 2. This is what I'm focusing on the most today, though, because people feel the most freaked out by these. So we just want to get comfortable with them. All right, so here's the best solution method for this kind, in my opinion, and this is not the way I was taught, and it might not be how you were taught, but figure out what's the least common denominator for 3, 6, and 2. So for the first one, the least common denominator is 6. 3 goes into 6, 6 goes into 6, and 2 does. And then we multiply each term by that least common denominator over 1. And that step is called, remember, we've already had eliminate parentheses. This is called eliminate the fractions. So like when I was a student, we were taught to change them all to fractions with common denominators and then work the tops. But that still keeps fractions all the way through the problem, and it makes it a little bit harder. I think a little bit more cluttered. If that's the way you were taught, though, you can still do it that way. You don't have to do it my way. But watch how nice this eliminates the fractions right away. These cancel to 1s. This cancels to 3. And now we multiply the tops. Minus 1 over 1 equals 9 times 3. Double check that they're all over 1. And then I can erase that, not even think about that anymore. Now, once the fractions are eliminated, it's usually not such a hard problem. Add 1 to both sides. And you get that. I just saw one more that I want to do. This one's not as hard. 6x. We'll finish with one that's not as hard. These are all from the book. Just wanted to give us a good variety. All right, Any questions about number 1, anybody? This visor, by the way, this was beaded for me by Lisa Bagola. She was my student a long time ago. And now she lives like in Louisiana or something. And she gave it to me when she wasn't my student, because I don't think it's ethical to take presents from people who are currently your student. I might have even paid for it. I forget, but we talked about it like for a whole semester because she would wear these. And I love it. But I love it so much that I don't wear it enough because I don't want to mess it up. I'm not sure if it would wash very well. Okay, least common denominator here. Let's turn them all into fractions. And you don't have to write this off on the side, but I do when I'm teaching it. 10 is going to work. So we take each term times 10 over 1. Eliminate the fractions. And go from there. I'll pause it again to see if anyone wants to finish that one before we go on again. Cancel those. Cancel these. No canceling over there. Let's see if I could write it over to the side. It's going to end up to be, whoops, that's not a 10. 1u over 1 plus 2u over 1 equals 6 times 10. So 3u equals 60. And you divide both sides by 3, and u is 20. But see that? It goes from really tricky looking to pretty straightforward really fast if we do this fraction elimination method. Does anyone have a question about that one? And no matter how weird they get, we can do it that way. Now this one, next week, we'll talk about another way to solve this one, number 3. We could solve it by cross multiplying, but I'll talk about that on Monday. But for now, we'll just do that same method for each of these. The least common denominator for 6 and 15, who knows what that would be? What's the first number that they could divide into?
$30.
Oh, no, good guess. Good try. 3 goes into them both. 3 goes into them both. I'll give you a point for that. But we're looking for what do they both go into? So we're looking at 6, 12, 18, like that. 24. Yeah, good. Yep. Oops. 30 is the first one they both would hit if you do it that way. So that's what I was looking for. Good job. Extra credits for all of y'all, as they say in the South. So let's multiply both of them by 30 over 1. And then cross cancel. And then distribute. This one's a little bit more work. See, they're always going to be different. So that first part is going to be 5 times y minus 2 over 1. This cancels. And that'll be 2 times y plus 1 over 1. And then we'd go from there. 5y minus 10 equals 2y plus 2. Here's doing the 2 steps at once. Subtract 2y from both and add 10 both. If you ever do that several steps at once or do some of it in your head, that's fine, but then I would recommend checking your answer just to make sure. Because if I do that, when I do that, sometimes I'll mess up a sign or something. personally. It's my personal thing. All right, this one is an easier one because the LCD, there's only one denominator other than 1, so it's 4.5. So if I take 4.5 times each of these, and remember, like I said, if you have a different way to solve these that works for you, that's fine. You can do a different way if it's getting the right answers. Sure. Let's see, 4.5 times 5. So we threw in a decimal here now, 22. So it'll be 22.5x. These cancels to 1. And then 4.5 times 18. Stop me if you're not following or something. Then get x alone like usual. Take away 1 from both sides. So 22.5. Then just be careful of decimal placement. X equals 80. Divide both sides by 22.5. Oh, I don't have my calculator with me, so I'm going to do it by hand. You can yell out the answer if you know it. 675, 125. It comes out to be, and they'll ask you to round it. If it's a decimal answer, round it to 2 places after the decimal. So I do approximately equal to, and it comes out 0.355, and it keeps going, but I want to round it to 2 places. So since this is 5 or more, we would write 0.36. And then the check, when we do the check, it doesn't come out exactly perfect if we round it like that. So that one's important to see. We maybe should do one more decimal one, just in case. Does anyone have a question about that one? I'm throwing in one additional decimal one. Just a more straightforward one, because I almost forgot to do more of those. 32.5. And we want to round to 2 decimal places, or it's also called the hundredths place. 2 places after the decimal. So if you use a calculator, it's easier than what I was just doing, but we use our usual steps and just line up those decimals real carefully. That's why, like in Europe and in Africa where I taught, they use graph paper for all their math. And they call it maths, probably because it's mathematics, but they call it maths. Anyway, they use that graph paper because it helps them really line up their work. And you might have done that before, or had a teacher that asked you to, or know someone who likes to do their work that way. But with decimal work, it's really handy. Let me add those together. So once it's 0.0 like that, 120.0, I don't need to keep that on there anymore. So I could figure out, I'm going to divide both sides by 5.16. This time I will use a calculator just to save time, but you can send me the answer too. So I take, just to review about calculators too, you enter 120 first, then divide by 5.16. So it comes out to 23.2558139535, on and on. So it rounds to 23.26. Approximately, that's what that squiggle means. And then we can, if we go to check it, I'm going to check it in my calculator and show you 5.16 times 23.26, subtract 87.5 equals 32.5216. So it doesn't come out exactly like that it's supposed to, and that's because of the rounding. So we'll keep that in mind in situations like this. Like when you're in college algebra and you're doing things with logarithms and stuff, that happens all the time. You might have noticed that in consumer math classes or other math classes you've had. Certain times it's not exactly perfect. Questions about that one? Okay, these are a little, 5 is a little quicker. I didn't skip any, did I? No, okay. So remember, back to the LCD. The LCD for these terms would be 4. So take 4 over 1 times everybody. And then it's going to be 12x plus 1 equals 2. I'm checking my work to make sure. So then 12x equals 1, subtracting 1 from both sides. And x equals 1/12. So sometimes when you have a weird answer like that, that's normal. I was looking at that one like, that wasn't in the book. No, I made that one up. Similar to one in the book. If I'm ever not sure, I'll check the answer. 3 times 1/12 would be 3/12. That's 1/4. Plus another quarter. Two quarters equals a half. So that checks out. So every now and then, I'm still a critic, try to be a critical thinker still. So every now and then I'll be like, that seems strange. So I'll do the check. Sometimes the textbook is wrong every now and then. Let's see, this one, what would be the fastest for us? I'm going to take a whole page for this one. There's like 3 different ways you can go about solving this one. So like if you multiplied both sides by 2 right away, let me do it that way. Actually, we want to cancel out that 1/2, but we don't know what to do with the parentheses yet. That's okay. We can cancel this off the front. Shanda did this in her work, that her extra problems. She did this to a couple of them. Instead of distributing first and then going through it, it was really good. So that gets that front thing right off of there. And it makes that, sometimes it makes the problem much simpler. 1 minus 4/3 x equals a half. In this case, I don't know. I think it seems simpler, but I don't know if you all do. I'm going to show you another method for solving it when it looks like this, which you might already know, of course. Some of you might be using this method. So I'm going to keep going. Let's say I want to get 4/3. I want to get x alone. So leave this, subtract 1 from both sides. 1/2 minus 1 is -1/2. And then I'd be like, ugh, yuck. But remember we talked about this before? Multiply both sides by the reciprocal with the sign as well. So the signs will cancel. The numbers will cancel. You'll get x by itself equals 3/8. And it would be done. So to me, that would be the quickest way to do that one. So that's not using the LCD method, but it's the fastest. So I just want to show that just in case somebody's hoping to do their problems that way and wondering why I haven't been doing that. So that was that multiplicative inverse, remember, that reciprocal. Any questions about that one? That was this one. And x ended up equaling 3/8. Exactly. The check for these ones starts to get a little bit hairy, and I don't usually ask to see it unless we're in class and we all do it together or something, you know, because the check is as much work as solving the equation sometimes, unless you have a calculator. Oops. We're almost done. Back to this kind again, that LCD would be 10. So I'm going to take 10 times each of those. And I could have, like I just did on the last one, I could have added 1/2 to both sides and then multiplied both sides by 5. That would have worked too. Might have been faster. So remember, just have confidence to do the problems as your heart wants to, you know, just give yourself that confidence. So add 5 to both sides. So 2x equals 35, and then divide both sides by 2. So 17.5. Or 35 over 2. The WebAssign takes that improper fraction answer also. In fact, that's preferable if like I said before, the problem comes at you in fraction form. If you answer in fraction form, that's the most accurate in the math world. But you never know, sometimes people teach you something different wherever you went. I'm just going to look at this way. I'm going to do this one the other way I was saying in words. If I added 1/2 to both sides, that would be 3.5. And then to get x alone, I'm going to undo that 5 underneath. Multiply by 5. And 3.5 times 5 is 15, plus 1/2 times 5 is 2.5. So it would have worked out that way too. So that's another way. This last one's easy if you see that you could turn this into an equivalent fraction with the same denominator. Or you could use the other methods, of course. And those can cancel if they're the same. So x equals 15 divided by 6. Reduce to 5 over 2. Una más, or uno más. Uno. One more. Any questions so far on that one or anything? I know you're all just sweet trying to let me get through it by 2 o'clock so you can do your assignment, but please ask questions if you want. All right, so here's Hazel and me. Hazel's my friend's daughter, and she used to come help mow my lawn when I was all single and alone. But now she has 3 babies and no working truck. So she doesn't come as much. She loves to mow though. So she's faster than me. She's probably more fast than that. She could probably do my yard in 1 hour, but that would have messed up the algebra. So here's how we could guess that it's going to be 2.5. That's what usually people will guess. But it's usually not what we think it's going to be with this one. And it's called it's time to complete a task. And so the entire job is, we call it 1. So we'd say 1 whole job. And I can complete 1/3 of the job in 1 hour. So I put that way. Hazel would, if she was doing it alone, she would complete half of the job in 1 hour. And if you think about it, that makes sense. Like we're looking at it by the hours, how much gets completed each hour. So for me, if I'm working alone, here's my little Mercedes symbol. I only get that much of the yard done. And if she was working alone in 1 hour, she'd get that much of the yard done. So that's the idea. Anyway, that's how we set it up. The 3 from me and the 2 from her equals 1 whole job. And then we solve it. Okay, Deanna, that's fine. This is my last one. I'm just going to talk about the review, that review sheet. That's it. Have a good day. So then we solve it like a regular algebra problem. I'm trying to find a place to put it. Here we go. So h/3 plus, that's how most of them have been looking for us, plus h/2 equals 1. Multiply everybody by the LCD, which would be 6. So we end up with 2h plus 3h equals 6. 5h equals 6. So h equals 6/5 or 1 1/5 hours. So working together, we'd finish the job in 1 hour and 1/5, which would be what, 1 hour and 12 minutes. So working together, it gets done a lot faster than the average would be. You know, like the average of 3 and 2 would be 2.5. That's what people are usually like, oh, add those and divide by 2. And that's not how it's going to work. It's a lot faster. So that would be the answer to that one. Not sure if we have one of those on the midterm, or even if we do, if I'll keep it on there, but I just wanted you to see one like that because they're interesting. And like, I know a contractor or a foreman or forewoman is not gonna like sit there and do an algebra time to complete a task. If they're assigning people to a job, like they know who works fast and who works slow and how long it takes for a job to end. They usually just know that intuitively. But this is the algebra behind that situation. Okay, I'm gonna see if I could just log into the Moodle here from my iPad. That would be nice. So I won't take any extra time. Yep, just 1 sec. I'll share my screen in a second. Nope, it's not letting me log in. Hang on. This will only take a sec. I'll get my other one open. Oh, it's done. Uploading. Oh, do, 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 do. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. All righty. Thank you for your patience. We can look at this a little bit bigger. And here, yesterday was day 7. And here, right here, it says the topics and concepts on the midterm exam. Click this link for the review page. So that's right there in your Moodle if you want to look at it. And it's not practice problems because you've been forced into a lot of practice problems in class and homework and extra credit. So this isn't more practice problems, but it's just all the topics. Officially, chapter 1, section 5 is in there. Some years we put the earlier chapter 1 topics in there too. And then chapter 2, all 4 sections. And chapter 3, sections 1 and 2. And that's it. So that's all on one page there, all the things to just look over. And if there's anything you're like, I'm not sure if I remember that, then just go back through your notes or look at your textbook, or remember your e-text that you have. It's really, it's short, like just the summaries of each topic with some examples. So that's a nice way to study too. Just look at some problems and try them, see if you're getting them right. So that's the way I study for math anyway. And then just look back over words, but it's an open book test, so it's open book. So if you do forget, like what's an additive inverse or something like that, I'm not going to test you on those words, but they might come up sometimes just in the language of a question in the WebAssign. So I'm curious though, because this, oops, sorry, there we go. This one I think is the same. Yeah, this is, I think, the same link. I'm just making sure. Yeah, I was being redundant, I guess. So those are both the same. So if you're looking at the Moodle and you're like, well, what's that one? It's the same as the other one was. So those are under day 7 right there. And this was the extra practice equation solving handout that also has a little bit of a summary of how to do them. So that might be handy for you. If it's overkill, then just don't worry about it, because once you know that you know it and you're getting everything right, or almost all of them right, then that's great. Then you can relax and enjoy the test and then have a good weekend, right? Anybody have any questions? Yep, you can use your notes. You can use your book. You can, I think I have it so that you can even look back over your old WebAssigns. You don't have to stay logged into the test. I don't think I have it locked, so you have to do that, but you'll be there in a breakout room too. If you do get booted out of the test, I'll get you right back in. But yeah, you can use anything. You're just not, you can't like ask a friend if you have a mathlete in the house, a math person, you're not supposed to ask them. That's why we have to watch you on video. And you're not supposed to Google it up or look it up online because you can find just about any math answer online nowadays, right? You could just type it into the search bar and it'll give you the answer and then videos about how to do it and everything, right? So we want to avoid those two things. So you're doing your own thinking, but using your own resources. So any other questions, anybody? Okay, I'm still here, but I'm gonna stay logged in though with my camera off in case anyone wants to jump back in with a question, or you can text me, okay? But go ahead, take a break and then work on your assignment, please. In WebAssign, it's the chapter 3A assignment. And then I'll see you, if you have any other questions, you can ask me before the test tomorrow in class, or email or text me or call me. I'm around, okay?
Okay, sounds good. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
See you, Eileen. Have a good night.
See you. You too.
See you, Tressa. Bye, Dawn. Bye, wonderful people. See you, Shanda and Hannah. I almost said both of your names together. You're right next to each other on my screen. Bye. Oh, sure, Carrie. If you put in a request in WebAssign, it's easier for me to know which one you want opened. So just next time you're in there, do the extension request. I'll do it right away. Okay. See you. Oh, see you.